Hi everyone, so this is a type of video that I like to watch all the time, so I figured out maybe, I would like to make one myself. I like to watch anti-hauls all the time. When it comes to makeup anyway, I feel like I was thinking maybe making a sort of fashion type anti-haul because I talk more about fashion than about makeup. This is probably my second video ever talking about makeup, but I really like anti-hauls in general, like anti-consumerism stuff, if you will, which, I feel like anti-hauls had a time where they were more about that. And then it was more about whether people were going to buy something or not, because I remember there was a time where everyone was doing anti-hauls and they were very popular. And they weren't necessarily started, but they were made popular by Kimberly Clark, who isn't making videos anymore, but her anti-hauls were so iconic and historical, and I sometimes rewatch them even though they're kind of old. But let me just get into the actual products. The first one being the Kimchi Chick Thaylor, I think it's Thaylor blushes. And by the way, I'm going to be talking about products that more recently became available in my country, so a lot of these are not remotely new if you're American. They're probably not new to you, they're probably been out for like maybe 3 or 4 months or more. So these blushes I was initially interested in because of the shape, really, because I've always been interested when they were available. I was interested in the Too Faced Sweethearts blushes, which were obviously also heart-shaped. And I think it's really cute to have a heart-shaped blush. They're very cute. But Too Faced discontinued those. And again, I think it's very cute how there's technically 2 shades. It's a lighter one and a darker one. And I'm interested in especially the pink shades or the neutrally shades. Even though I do have a couple blushes myself, I already have 3. Yeah, I have 3. I have 2 powder blushes and 1 cream blush. But the thing is that I saw a lot of reviews of this product, the kimchi product, saying that the blushes always arrive broken and the powder is really crumbly. And that kind of tells you that the way they're pressed is really soft, so they're really fragile products. I think the same thing used to happen to the Becca blushes, that if you drop them, even if it wasn't a huge drop, they would explode. And not all highlighters necessarily, not all pressed powder products necessarily do that, so some are pressed a bit more softly than others. They also have bronzers and highlighters with this packaging, but I don't really wear those either. I don't wear blushes, or I wear blushes, I don't really wear bronzers or highlighters. You have probably noticed that I just don't really, get a lot of use out of them. I guess it would flatter me, but it's just not my style, I guess. And also heart-shaped or just weird shaped stuff is always generally going to be harder to store than stuff that is just round or especially square. I feel like square packaging is the nicest in terms of storing it. So in case you wanted a reason to not buy the kimchi blushes, apparently they might or at least they are very likely to arrive broken. Which obviously can happen with all products, but if products tend to arrive broken, it's probably a fault of the product itself. Next one is the Glossier, the beauty bag. I mean, they've always presented themselves as a sort of phenomenon, right, rather than a brand, because it's like there's a Glossier look and there's a Glossier aesthetic, if you will. There is a Glossier thing that goes beyond, just the brand. There's like an entire, I guess they are a phenomenon in that sense, the fact that people do have a glossy look, or there is a certain attitude towards makeup that is associated with this brand. But I feel like they're doing too much at this point. They had a sweatshirt at first. They have different sweatshirts now. They have a first one without a hoodie, then there's the ones with hoodies, I think. They have a water bottle, and then they have this makeup bag. And when this brand started getting popular, I was interested in it. And I actually got a couple of products by them. I remember getting the Boy Brow and the Moisturizing Moon Mask. And the Boy Brow is fine. I don't really know that it's necessarily worth that much money in comparison to the Essence Make Me Brow. And also the Moisturizing Moon Mask, I feel like it wasn't that moisturizing. And I'm not gonna lie, there's some stuff by them that I find that I have in my wish list. And I feel like some of that stuff I primarily want because of the look of it and the feel, sort of the you know, that glossy thing that you have. Their packaging is cute and it's sort of that minimalist feel. And you know, there's the thing about them is that they're not too high end to be inaccessible, but they do have a sort of prestige to them. You know, like when you see Instagram pictures that have with a layout, or you know, a skincare cabinet with glossy products, it looks pretty, and that kind of makes you want them. But I don't even have a specific cabinet where I keep my skincare products. And again, I feel like a big reason why people want these products is because they have this cool girl kind of association, you know. It's like, oh, I'm a cool girl, you know, I don't wear too much makeup, I'm focused more on skincare. And of course a lot of people do relate to that, and that's why they became so popular. And I'm not sure if they're that popular right now, as popular right now as they used to be. I'm sure they're making money, of course. But I feel like the minimalist look is almost, it kind of had its peak a couple years ago, and now it's becoming a little bit less extreme in terms of how, you know, minimalist it is. Next is the Melt Cream Blush Lights. I feel like for the most part the shades here are a little too generic, I guess. I mean, I know a lot of people are excited for these blushes, but to me the only interesting shade is the Daydreamer shade, because it's a burgundy, and I feel like we need more burgundy blushes out there. I don't really trust cream blushes in compacts in the first place. I like the Milk makeup, the fact that it's in a stick, you know, there's less surface for little fibers from brushes and hairs and stuff like that. And also the packaging of the Milk one is very airtight, whereas compacts aren't quite as protective of the product. And I saw that cream blush compacts always get like fibers or hairs eventually, and you have to like dig them out. And it always makes the product less appealing for you to reach for it and wear it, you know. At least for me it did when I had cream blushes in compacts before. Next is the Urban Decay Naked Wild West palette. This came into Sephora Mexico maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks ago. And I'm honestly kind of mad at myself that I want it so much. And it's done because the main reason I want it is because it has that western theme, and I'm from the north of Mexico, so it's like, and I've been watching some westerns lately, and you know, I've been kind of into it. And also most of the shades are just neutral shades, which I feel like I only need a few neutrals really. My collection really needs a few neutrals. And I tell myself, well, I need this for the turquoise shades then, but I actually went on Temptalia, and it turns out that the 2 teal or turquoise shades on the Naked Wild West are pretty much exact dupes for the Melt Muerte, the turquoise shades on that palette. So I'm pretty much out of excuses to why I even want to own this palette. And also the reviews that I have seen in terms of the quality haven't been, they've been mostly positive, I would say. Not incredibly positive, but people do think it's a good formula. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not sure if I really want to buy this just to have a couple of teal shades that I already have, and a bunch of neutrals that I may or may not really get use out of. Next is the ColourPop Bambi collection, and I have to admit this is really pretty. It's so cute, and it's so nice for spring as well. It's a very cute spring release. The highlighter with the puff is kind of weird, because you would want the highlighter to be more precise, right, unless it's for the body or something. But I remember seeing it and I'm like, oh, that would be so cute for display. But how? Like, what am I gonna display it with? What would it look good with that I have here in my bedroom? Basically nothing. Like, it doesn't really go with what I have. And also, why display it? Because I feel like as soon as another collection hits, the Bambi highlighter isn't even gonna be that much of a novelty to keep it for display. At least for a brand like ColourPop that is so trendy and so fast-paced, that, you know, the Bambi collection is pretty much already old by this point. And I don't really wear lip gloss, so, you know, in terms of the products, I won't really buy that. And I was kind of interested in the Flower palette because it's purple, but I hate the fact that a 5-pan palette has a glittery black shade. Same with the Thumper palette, it has one of those glittery dark or black shades, and I hate those shades so much because you start to blend them and the color sticks, but then the glitter starts to fall here. They're probably easier to formulate, which is why they're used so often, but I really don't want to see them, especially in such a small palette. Of course, by this point, the Lizzie McGuire palette is also out, and there's also the Limoncello collection, and maybe there's even another one at this point. I don't even know. But I'm not really interested in any of those because the Limoncello is basically just a warm neutral palette with one blue, and the Lizzie McGuire palette is, I think a lot of people have said already that it's basically the same colors as the Sailor Moon palette. I'm like 2 years too young to be that much into Lizzie McGuire because I wasn't really watching Disney Channel by that point. I was more into like Nickelodeon. Next is the Fenty body sauce, and I kind of want this because it's going to be summer kind of soon, but I'm not even going out. And even when I do go out, I don't really wear clothes, the kind of clothes that would justify wearing or even buying a product like this. I mean, I don't tend to show that much of my legs or my arms, mostly because of the state of my arms. I mean, this isn't really not gonna be the video where I'm gonna talk about this, but the state of my arms is not great, or in my back, most of my back as well. But my legs, I don't really show enough of them to make for it to make any difference that I wear, you know, like a shimmery product on it. And even then, if you're not sure whether you would even wear this product, you could just mix a liquid highlighter with some body lotion and add some foundation, or mix foundation with body lotion and maybe top with a powder highlighter that you already have. And I guess the advantage is that the body sauce could be potentially transfer resistant, and even then it's not really transfer proof. But does that difference really justify $50? I mean, I don't know that it does. I guess for some people it might, especially if you're an influencer, you know, you want to review stuff. But I think for a lot of people it's more of a question, you know, on whether or not it really makes sense to buy something like this. Another thing that I basically just want to talk about because I want to make fun of it is the IT Cosmetics GLB Love is a foundation brush. This is a $50 brush that is really ugly. This is a bestseller in Sephora Mexico. I have no idea why or how, but it's $40 and it looks like a brush that you would get at the drugstore. One of those really kitschy brushes, I guess, that have like glitter inside or like little beads inside or something like that. And I'm sure that it's good quality because it's IT Cosmetics and they're known for being good quality with their brushes. But wouldn't the hard shape of the bristles of this, you know, top part just be more cumbersome? Like, wouldn't that just be kind of uncomfortable? And I guess you could have it for display, but don't you think it will be difficult and weird, really, to display this brush entirely by itself? Like, are you just gonna have it in a cup with beads by itself and just kind of have it there, or are you gonna keep it with other Valentine's theme stuff, or I don't know. And I mean, I know I said that I loved the heart-shaped blushes and I thought they were cute, but I feel like that's a bit more of a simple concept, whereas the heart being on the brush, on the shape of the bristles itself, is kind of a little bit too much. Like, that's a bit too much. Another one is the ColourPop Cheek Dew. I know it's yet another ColourPop product, but they release so much stuff, and I want to mention something. First of all, the fact that, you know, the blushes got a terrible review from Temptalia, so that's already something against the product specifically. But I want to mention the fact that, as you probably know, the blushes this release was basically accused by Michelle Phan from M Cosmetics of being pretty much a copycat product of her serum blushes. And she said on Instagram, she was like, they try to copy us, but they can copy our creativity or something like that. And I remember someone here on YouTube also said that this wasn't just a copy of M Cosmetics blushes, but also the packaging was copying the Glossier liquid blushes, because apparently a squeeze tube is patented or something. I think that accusation is completely ridiculous, both from M Cosmetics and this other YouTuber who it makes no sense to even name, but they're liquid blushes with some skincare ingredients, and they have a completely different packaging from the M Cosmetics one, and the packaging from Glossier, it also looks completely different from the Glossier one, even if they're both squeeze tubes. And I don't want to defend ColourPop. In fact, I think that a lot of what's going on, I think it's partly because of their sort of fall from grace, which I think it was their strongest maybe last year or maybe 2019. But I think there was a time where people were really, really getting tired of ColourPop and their really fast-paced releases. and as a company, you know, and I don't care to defend any company, but I just think it's interesting that they were really, really loved back then when they started off, or at least when they were getting popular for the first time, when they came out with those liquid blushes and the super shock shadows and stuff like that. But I feel like in the last years they've been known for not restocking their products and getting bad customer service, and also from the fact that, you know, they have a lot of releases that they don't necessarily plan and make carefully. And sometimes it seems that all they can do well is eyeshadow palettes or products that belong to a specific collab with an intellectual property or something like that. I'm not sure if that's really the case, but it seems to me that maybe there's products that they just don't put as much effort into. And I think also the fact that Michelle Phan called them out, it's kind of significant. I feel like maybe the fans of Michelle Phan, specifically of her makeup brand, they might boycott Colourpop as a whole because of that, or at least temporarily. Because I feel like that's kind of how things tend to work, you know, like someone calls someone out and, you know, that means that you will boycott them temporarily, something like that. I feel like that's a dynamic that happens in the makeup community online, at least. Another release that I want to mention is the KVD Good Apple Skin Perfecting Foundation Balm, and I don't really have that much to say about the product. I've seen mixed reviews. Taylor Wynn gave it a pretty negative review, I would say, and well, somewhat of a negative review as a whole, but apparently it wore better throughout the day than how it seemed initially, but you know, that's not precisely a perfect product either. And she also said that it looked cheap and that it felt cheap, the packaging, and I have to agree, the way that it looks, it's kind of cute, but at the same time you wouldn't really expect it to be from a Sephora brand, or, you know, brand that is found at Sephora, because I know that they're now at Ulta too. But in a way I'm kind of glad that they are getting hype despite the fact that they were supposedly going to, you know, be forgotten or whatever after KVD, you know, after the actual Kat Von D left, and they started coming out with not that interesting products. But I feel like even before, the brand was getting, you know, not as much interest, and their products were kind of getting clowned on online, and a lot of their stuff just wasn't really, people weren't really talking about their products as much even before she left. So in a way I'm kind of glad that they are getting some hype after she left, because I like the idea of having the sort of look of the brand before she left, but also, you know, the fact that she isn't there anymore. I like to have that option, and I'm sure they can come out with some great products here and there. So I wouldn't buy the foundation myself. I don't really care to do it, but I like the fact that people, you know, are finding something by them interesting, and I am interested to see what they're gonna come out with next after this foundation. So those are the products that I was gonna talk about, and yeah, let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.